On the agenda tonight, we're going back to 1995. We're going to be taking a look at Glenn Frey, and he's going to be performing You Belong to the City. Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus, and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. So let's get Glenn and the gang up on screen, and Don Felder is going to be playing a solo at the end of this, and Joe Walsh is helping out on the drums. Let's get everyone up on screen and have a listen, see how they get on.
You can feel it starting all over again. The moon comes up and the music calls. You're getting tired of staring at the same four walls. You're out of your room and down on the street, moving through the crowd in the midnight heat. The traffic roars, the sirens scream. You look at the faces, it's just like a dream. Nobody knows where you're going. Nobody cares where you've been. 'Cause you belong to the city. You belong to the night. Living in a river of darkness beneath the neon light. You were born in the city. Concrete under your feet. It's in your blood. It's in your moves. You're a man of the street. And when you said goodbye, you were on the run, trying to get away from the things you'd done. Now you're back again, and you're feeling strange, 'cause so much has happened, but nothing has changed. You still don't know where you're going. No, no, still just a face in the crowd. Yeah, 'cause you belong to the city. You belong to the night. Living in a river of darkness beneath the neon light. You were born in the city.
just going to jump in here. As always, the link to this video is going to be in the description below, so you can click on that to hear it without me interrupting. It is quite a long song and a long performance at just over 7 minutes, so we will try and get through the whole thing. There is so much top quality playing going on here, and talk about setting the scene with the saxophone intro. This is Al Garth playing, putting so much expression into his playing, and on that original record, it's capturing that mood in a live setting, and Al manages to do that perfectly. Talking about the whole feel of the song, it's one of those things, playing in the rain as well. It kind of suits the song, but obviously from a playing perspective, with it raining and being cold, this is the other thing that you can see, that Glenn, when he's singing, you can see the breath coming out of his mouth because it obviously is cold, and that's one of those things that will affect your guitar playing. Everybody will know if you have played outside and it's cold, or even if you've just been outside and it has been really cold and you try and do anything technical with your fingers, like doing up a button, it is difficult. So just think of playing the guitar with cold hands. I think in this live performance, the tempo is being pushed ever so slightly compared to the original record, but it does suit it because it's not something that you instantly think, oh, this is too fast a tempo. It just suits the song and the energy of the performance, especially when we have Glenn leaning into his vocal now with this second verse and adding that grit that he had in there. It gives such a great dynamic change between that lighter vocal sound that he could get up to in his head voice and falsetto as well, but then to get the attitude in there. Just when I'm talking about the feel and the attitude of the song, going back to the saxophone intro, because you'll find that every great instrumentalist applies the same techniques musically to their instrument. And with the saxophone, we had such expression with vibrato, holding on notes, and then applying vibrato at the end of those long held notes, but then also little throwaway lines. Saxophone is such a great instrument because you get the option of hearing a breathy note, and you can hear the air through the notes. So it's so similar to a human voice. And when you get a great player like Al here, you get such a great connection with that instrument because obviously there's no tempo in that intro. So you just go with the flow of whatever the player is playing, but also whatever they're feeling. So my aim with this video is to also look at Don's solo at the end, because there's a lot of interesting stuff going on there, and it'd be good to break that down. Also to look at Glenn and his history, of course. So we're going to jump back into the video. We'll watch it until the end, and hopefully this analysis won't go on for years, but let's get back into it.
You can feel it. You can taste it. You can see it, Lord. Oh, you can face it. You can hear it. Hey, you're getting near it. Hey, you wanna make it. Woo-hoo, 'cause you can take it. Woo-hoo, you belong to the city. You belong to the night. You belong to the city. You belong to the night. You belong. You belong. Mr. Don Felder on guitar.
have it. As you can see there, Joe getting involved on the drums, but that last solo as well, so well played by Don. But looking at this performance overall, Glenn vocally spot on the whole time, and also went up into what sounded like his falsetto sound. He was quite far away from the microphone, so we couldn't tell if it was head voice or falsetto, but hitting all of those heights, having all of that control with his voice. By the way, progression-wise, in this song, we have our E minor and A minor in the verse. In the chorus, we've got E minor, C to A minor. And then in that mid-late breakdown that we have, we're starting E minor, G, A minor, C. So that's if you want to play along with the song. But let's just jump into Don's solo at the end there, because it is so well pieced together, but also covering every section of that minor pentatonic scale, also blues scale in there, bends as well, throwing them in. So I'll get the guitar out and we'll have a look at it. So straight into the solo, we've got a bit of wah-wah on here as well. We've got this bend, and then the hammer-ons and pull-offs there, second fret, the D string. And then we're ascending up into the extended shape. So we're then... Again, we've got a bend here, but this time we're going all the way up to the 12th fret if you're trying to hear that pitch. That's where we want to be hitting, and then we spend a little bit more time in the extended part of the shape, and then once we're now into shape 1 on our 12th fret. So once we get up to here, we've got a little bit of the wah-wah sound as well, just adds something extra to it. Of course, Don's in total control the whole time with his vibrato, his expression in there as well. As we work our way up, we're then all the way up to so we've got that bending theme running all the way through. They're obviously so expressive, and the way that Don does it. So we've got some really cool lines dotted in and around the solo by Don. There is one that he goes back to, which is back. And it's that kind of thing, just throwing in a little hook and then going into your pentatonic shape 1, hitting some bends, great vibrato, and then going back to that hook is something that the great guitarists do. They just give you a little bit of a home base within a solo. We've already had that journey, but it's so good to give you that reference point. So the thing to take away from that final solo is that it isn't just random notes that have been thrown together by Don. He's got a framework of the journey that he wants to set out, and along that journey, notes will change and he'll ad-lib, but it's all with that framework to increase pitch and therefore just get more of an emotional response from the audience, because once you start throwing in the technique, of course, like vibrato and the bends, it's going to give it such an impact and going to be a lot more dramatic, but it's the increase in pitch that also has that effect to lead you into that crescendo, that big finish at the end. When you consider as well that it's raining, he's got a wet fretboard, it's cold as well, which can compromise your playing, and your fingers don't move as quickly or as efficiently as you want them to, Don does a great job here and just nails it as if he's sat in his room. But we are going to be moving on to Glenn and get into his background as well. Obviously, a lot of that is the Eagles, but we'll concentrate on his early story and also the stuff that he got up to after the Eagles. So Glenn started playing the piano age 5 and moved on to the guitar after that. He also started a band at school, and then after school he was in a band called The Four of Us, and then when when he was 18, he founded his band called The Mushrooms, and this is in 1967. So he then met Bob Seger in that same year, and through Bob, he managed to get management and also a record deal because Bob's management company had just set up their own record label. Bob does have his own video here somewhere on the channel if you want to check him out independently, but he wrote the first single for Glenn's band and they did promote it on TV, and Glenn did intend to join Bob's band, but then his mum found out that they were smoking cannabis and put an end to that planned move to join Bob. So in 1968, when Glenn was 19 years of age, he provided some acoustic guitar playing and backing vocals for Bob on his song Ramblin' Gamblin' Man, and at this point Bob told Glenn to focus on writing original material, which Glenn certainly did from then onwards. In 1969 he founded Long Branch Penny Whistle with J.D. Souther. It was a duo. They signed to Amos Records and released an album that same year. At this time as well, Glenn lived with J.D. Souther and Jackson Browne, and you can check out Jackson on the channel here somewhere independently if you want to, but he did say that he learned a lot about songwriting from Jackson Browne. So moving into 1970, this is when he met Don Henley, because they were both on the same label and they were arranging the label a band for Linda Ronstadt. And Linda's here somewhere if you want to check her out independently, but this was that first link to what would be in the future the Eagles, because the other members of the band, it did rotate, but Randy Meisner and Bernie Ledden were two that were playing behind Linda with Glenn and Don, and that was at Disneyland that they performed together. But then after that, Don and Glenn thought that they'd put a band together and invited Randy and Bernie along, and the rest is history. So after the Eagles had broken up, he pursued his solo career in the early 80s, and 1982 is when he released No Fun Allowed, and then The All-Nighter came in 1984. And that was the same year that he released The Heat Is On, and that was featured on the soundtrack of Beverly Hills Cop, and it turned into a worldwide hit. It was 1985 when he released You Belong to the City, and that was featured on the Miami Vice soundtrack, and that soundtrack went to #1 in the charts and it stayed there for 11 weeks. He also had Smuggler's Blues on that soundtrack, and that got to #12 in the charts independently. In 1987 is when he was due to sing Shakedown for the Beverly Hills Cop 2 movie, but unfortunately he suffered with laryngitis when that was due to be recorded, so he passed that over to Bob Seger, and Bob recorded it and it went to #1, and Glenn called up Bob, congratulated him and said, at least we kept the money in Michigan. In 1988, he released Soul Searching, and in 1989, he released Flip City, which was featured on the Ghostbusters 2 movie soundtrack. Part of Me, Part of You was released in 1991, and that was part of the Thelma and Louise movie soundtrack. In 1992, he released Strange Weather, and also in the 90s, he set up his own record label. He also did a bit of acting as well. In 1986, he was in Let's Get Harry, and in 1996 he was in Jerry Maguire. Unfortunately, in the year 2000, that's when he was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, and he suffered really from then on. In 2009, he was inducted into the Michigan Rock and Roll Legends Hall of Fame. His last studio album was released in 2012, and that was called After Hours. Sadly, Glenn passed away in 2016 due to complications from rheumatoid arthritis, and that was at age 67. Unfortunately, the treatment that he was taking, from what I've read, could have caused his body's immune system to be affected and not be able to fight the pneumonia that he had at the time. In 2018, his widow filed a lawsuit for wrongful death. So I'm not sure how far that has progressed, but court cases can take a very long time to go through, but we'll just see what happens from that. But it's great to have a look back at Glenn in full flow here, vocally on on song as he always was, being helped out by his mates as well. But just the whole band are so spot on throughout this performance, and the saxophone is one of those parts that really does shine, as well as all the other elements that are going on. But thank you guys for suggesting this video for me to take a look at, and keep those suggestions coming in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you guys at the next one. Rock!